It's KMJ at KMJNow.com or wherever you stream. Welcome to the MARC KAPETAN Show. This is attorney Mark Kapetan, your host. Today's show is brought to you by the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. We've been serving the Central Valley since 1995. If you or anybody you know has been injured in an auto accident, a truck accident, or a motorcycle accident, give us a call at 559-498-8000. Or if you've been arrested or cited for a criminal offense, call us at 559-498-8000. Kapetan Brothers, we're the Valley's law firm. Hey, today's show is sponsored by Sherlock Realty. Sherlock Realty, if you're searching for a new home and you need a clue, turn to my friend Victoria Sherlock at Sherlock Realty. She's like the Sherlock Holmes of real estate, a super sleuth for finding your next home. With nearly 20 years of real estate experience, Victoria will help you find the right home at the right price. So call Victoria Sherlock at 559-289-4669. That's 289-4669. Sherlock Realty, the clue to finding your next home. Hey, I want to thank everybody out there listening for making the MARC KAPETAN Show the #1 weekend talk radio show in the Valley. It's been a great 4 years introducing you to interesting and notable Valley residents, as well as bringing you national and international guests. Today's guest is a hometown Valley girl whose trajectory to fame as a singer started on local radio and TV. She was even a host of a talent show, right here on KMJ, where her weekly show featured young local talent. Traveling far and wide, she served her country on the Armed Forces Radio Network in Okinawa during the Vietnam War. She is a singer-songwriter, and in the mid-1950s, she signed a recording contract with none other than Capitol Records, releasing her hit single "Traveling Stranger" in 1957. That record put her on the path to fame as a singer, and she shared the stage with the likes of Jerry Lewis, Roger Williams, Les Brown, and his Band of Renown, as my dad's favorite, and others. She also had the rare and exciting experience on appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1958. Although music had been her career and the thing that gave her life, she gave it all up to come back to Fresno and raise a family with her husband, Tom. She spent the rest of her life teaching music to elementary school kids, and to this day loves playing the piano and singing. She is a true Valley girl with a true exciting story, perfect for the MARC KAPETAN Show. So I'd like to welcome to the MARC KAPETAN Show KMJ radio veteran and Capitol recording artist, Ann Leonardo Thaxter. Welcome, Ann.
Well, what a nice introduction. Wow.
Well, it's a very special lady that I have here in my studio here.
Well, thank you.
You were, was it Arthur Godfrey who found you?
Well, it depends what you call finding me. I did a radio and a television show. I had a show on KMJ television also. And I was doing that, and then son of a gun, my father had been to Italy, and he was returning, and my mother and I went to meet him in New York on his return. And while we were there, we were with family, a big Italian family.
Yeah.
And I sang at the party, and one of the cousins said, you ought to be on Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scout show. He said, I'm going to call tomorrow and see if I can get you on.
Okay, so
that's how it had it.
So we're going to go back to all the early life and stuff,
Okay.
But on these first things, I love talking about what you really were famous for, what my guest is really famous for. And so that's what was interesting is how does a young girl from Fresno, and I know you did all the radio stuff that we'll talk about later getting into it. So you're at a party. Is it a star-studded party, or is it just
family?
And one of the guests at the party was somehow connected with the talent show, or he just said you should go try out?
A cousin of mine. Evidently, they had talent scouts on Arthur Godfrey's Talent Scouts.
Yeah.
And he signed up. He has a talent scout and said, I'm here to introduce my cousin, and introduced me.
So this is like the early days of, we all think that everything's been invented just in the past 5 years, and you have stuff like American Idol and America's Got Talent and stuff like that. But there was talent scouts in New York looking for that wandering little girl who wanted to become a star, and they heard you sing.
Well, their talent, Arthur Godfrey's talent scout was kind of like American Idol then.
Yeah.
That was like in 1956 or 7 we're talking about.
Right. And what, do you remember the song you sang at the party?
Yeah. The Breeze.
The Breeze.
Oh, gosh, I have a recording of that. I don't know. I can't quite remember it now.
Yeah. There was a song, a rock and roll song years later called The Breeze, too, and I don't know if it's related to that or not, but you sing it, and this guy walks up to you and says, you got to be on the Arthur Godfrey show, and you actually made it to the show.
Yes, I auditioned first,
Yeah.
and then they put me on, yeah. And I did not win because Hillbilly Band won, but it had applause meters, and there was some discrepancy on that applause meter somehow. And all of a sudden, I got a phone call while I was still in New York, and it said, we had a problem. Could you please come and play or sing on Arthur Godfrey for a week? And I said, sure, why not? So I did. And it was a simulcast, radio and television. And so I did. And ironically, the last day, I was on 5 days, on a Friday, he said, do you have another song to sing? And I said, no, but, that they had made an arrangement with the orchestra. And I said, no, but I said, I can play the piano and do one. And he said, oh, you play the piano? And I said, yeah. He said, well, let's take a break, Lipton tea, and roll out a piano. And they did. And I sang, Istanbul was Constantinople.
Istanbul is Constantinople, and Istanbul. Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Song.
My dad used to sing it when we were kids,
really?
going cross country. Yeah,
it was a big record. And
in fact, being Greek, every time someone tells me they're from Istanbul, I say no, it's actually Constantinople.
There you go. And so he said, well, I want you to come back next week. So I did. The next week, I came back for another 5 days, and then before I knew it, they had signed me up to be on. I'd be off for 4 weeks and then on for 2 weeks.
Oh, you were a regular talent on the show.
It was when Pat Boone was on. The McGuire sisters were on at that time. Ken Berry. Yeah.
So they would literally you all know her, you love her. Let's bring back Ann Leonardo, and you would just do regular spots on there.
Yes.
Oh my God!
Yes.
How long did you do that for?
Oh, I guess about a year.
Yeah, and were you living in New York? Did you move out there?
I used to come back and forth to Fresno, but then we realized that was too hard because then I got some other things going. I'm
going to tell you about one of the other things going, and this may not be what you're talking about, but it's a perfect time to bring it up. Let's see if this works here. So here we go. Tell me if this is it.
Ladies and gentlemen, right now, a very charming young girl, an Arthur Godfrey discovery. We love her. We're sure you will too. Miss Ann Leonardo.
So this is your appearance, get this, folks, on the Show of Shows, the biggest show there was in 1958.
I blush to think how many, many men have asked for a kiss from me.
Have asked for a kiss from you.
How many, many men I have answered no, sirree.
This is the Ed Sullivan Show in 1958. And I'm telling you, I thought I was going to see you sing. There's you playing piano, dancing with two gentlemen who are getting very frisky with you, Ann, I got to say. And the dance moves, the singing, the personality, your acting on the whole thing, Marcella, it's so exciting. I got to say, you fall in love with you immediately. So in 1958, you're on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that must have just been... You're a household name after that, right?
Well, I don't know. But other things were happening, too. Then all of a sudden, I got this record contract, and then my manager also had Bob Keeshan, Captain Kangaroo, and I went on the Captain Kangaroo show. And so it kind of worked out that I was on Captain Kangaroo Treasure House for a week, and then I'd be on for Arthur Godfrey, and then I'd be doing something else right there in New York. So my father and I got an apartment there.
Okay, so we're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to get back to Ed Sullivan because to me that's exciting, and I love Captain Kangaroo. I listened to it as a kid. So we are on with Ann Leonardo Thaxter. She was a superstar at one point back in the day, and just a great musician and singer and songwriter, etc. We'll be right back on the Mark Kapetan after this. This is the KMJ. Thanks. It's News Talk 580 1059 KMJ. Welcome back to the Mark Kapetan Show. Folks, do yourself a favor. I'm going to pot this music down like I like to do in the second segment. If you have been in a serious accident, I know we talk music and rock and roll and this time 50s music and stuff, but I am a serious attorney. I work every day in law. I've been doing it for 32 years. My brother and I have had the firm for, over 25 years, and then we worked for other firms before that. But if you've been in a catastrophic injury, brain injuries, friends or family that have had some sort of accident, we've had multi-million-dollar awards. We just had a huge award this last month, $21 million. So, if you've been in some sort of injury or you have a friend, do yourself a favor, do a friend a favor. All it takes is a simple phone call to our office to figure out what kind of case you have, and we'll give you some good advice. It's the Kapetan Brothers Law Firm at 559-498-8000. Also, another sponsor for our show, American Made Concerts. If you're looking for great rock and roll entertainment, go to AmericanMadeConcerts.com. Check for your up-and-coming shows at AmericanMadeConcerts.com. We are back on with Ann Leonardo Thaxter. She is a radio personality, singer-songwriter, was signed by Capitol Records back in the 50s as a recording artist, KMJ veteran, Valley Music Hall of Fame inductee, all that kind of stuff. And you quickly skipped over what I thought was a very exciting thing. And so I want to go back to the Ed Sullivan Show that you were on in 1958. How'd you get on to the Ed Sullivan Show? And folks, Marcella, you too included, because you're so young. That she says, yes, she is. The Ed Sullivan Show, think of this. There's three TV stations back in the day. Now there's hundreds. Back then there was three, ABC, NBC, CBS. There was also the Mutual Broadcast Network back in the day. But they comprised every audience share that there was. Millions and millions of people, and I think even the Ed Sullivan Show probably had 70% of the viewers watching him. So I'm talking millions and millions. It could be 20, 30, 40, 50 million people watching Ann on the Ed Sullivan Show. How did you get on the show, and what was that like?
Well, I was singing, performing at Palm Beach, Florida, and at a nightclub called the Patio Dinner Club. And Ed Sullivan was sitting there at the table, but little did I know he was sitting with the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. And I have a picture of them.
Really?
I can show it to you. There they were sitting, and anyway, he called me over to the table. Now, I was very naive, so I didn't know who that was, the Duke and Duchess, but I found that later.
Later, the King and Queen of England, right?
Well, he became the king, but then he abdicated.
Abdicated the throne.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, my
because
gosh.
of the Duchess,
Because King Edward, I think it was Edward and his wife, he loved his wife so much, he decided, I'm not going to be king.
That's what he said. Anyway, so, and Ed Sullivan was sitting with them and having dinner. Anyway, he called me over to the table and said, I'd really like to have you on the show. So he got my manager's name and the information, and so I thought, oh, well, okay, I didn't think maybe that'll happen, maybe it won't, but all of a sudden we did hear from him. My manager got a call from him, and they made a date, and that's how I got on the show. Okay, so
you go to the show, and I've been on some TV stuff and national TV stuff. It's very exciting. It's very different than doing your local thing, and we're going to talk about some of the local stuff, what got you to that point in a little bit, but you go there, it's the huge cameras from back in the day, the hot lights and all that kind of stuff. Is there rehearsals? How does that work back in those days?
That was really interesting. They wanted me to do a little dance number also. They asked if I could move, and I said, I think so. I had done some dancing.
You did it
And-
very well, I'll tell you. I've watched it. So
Well, anyway, so ironically, I was wearing a strapless gown, and they thought that maybe that would be a little bit dangerous. So they put some straps on there. They sewed them on really quick, so that make sure my gown stayed on. And we rehearsed like one time or. Yeah, just something, did a little
Right.
routine, and before I knew it, and he said, okay, we're fine. Okay, well, yeah.
So is it taped or are you now going live?
We went live, yeah.
Marcella, you rehearsed one time. You got to see this performance that she does. I mean, it's very choreographed. She does an excellent job, like you've been dancing with these guys forever. The little playful things that you're doing with them is so cute. And when you talk about the strapless dresses, this is the 50s. The guys both go to give her a kiss at the same time, but you notice they don't touch her cheek. They just pretend to kiss her.
Yeah.
And that's what it was like back then,
Yes,
huh?
yes, yes.
Okay, so you wake up the next day after doing a show like this. You got to have butterflies like mad, or were you calm when you did the show?
I was pretty calm because I had been doing really crazy things for that amount of time. If I could tell you how many things that I had going, that it was okay. I can do this.
Isn't that funny? Marcella always asks me. She goes, "Are you?" She always calls me before one of our shows. We just played a show about 2,000 people. About 1,200, 1,300 people. She goes, "Are you nervous before you go on stage?" I go, "No, I'm rehearsed. I know what I'm doing. I love it." And I don't get nervous. So you had that same thing, but you're playing now in front of millions of people.
Yeah. I guess I didn't think of it that way. I was thinking of, I just got to get this right. I've got to go left when they go right, and
I'm glad I wasn't there telling you, hey, there's going to be millions of people. Okay, how old are you at the time that this happens?
I was, I think I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wake up the next morning. Now, I know you've been doing the shows and you were on Arthur Godfrey and stuff like that, but whether it's the Godfrey show or whether it's Ed Sullivan show or something like that, you wake up the next morning, you're now a nationally known face, loved. You could see the way they were. It was very playful. You were very, very cute, engaging. You capture an audience just by your look, I swear. And I'm not just buttering you up because you're sitting here in front of me. It was very, very pleasant, cute to see. You wake up the next day, you're one of these America's Sweetheart type things. Do the friends start calling? Does life change? I mean, what happens to a young girl like that at 19 years old?
I think it's such a whirlwind at that time. You're thinking. I wasn't thinking about those things. One funny thing happened. After I did the song and I came off stage and the show was over and I was going to go out the back, the stage door, my father was waiting for me. He was always there.
Yeah.
And this gentleman came up to me and he said, Ann, he said, and I looked at him and I thought, oh my gosh, he was my geometry teacher at Fresno High. And I thought, well, what is he doing here? He had somehow gotten into the,
Oh, really?
Yeah, Mr. Higginbotham. And I thought, oh my gosh, Mr. Higginbotham, what are you doing?
Dad followed you around all the time?
He was there constantly.
As a protector or as a supporter of your career?
Both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, and I am very glad he was, because it's a crazy business. And
yes,
especially for a young girl, 19, 20 years old.
Yeah.
It's dangerous.
I can't remember if in one of your interviews if you're talking about your dad or your grandfather, but one of them had 12 kids and used to buy the bras for the girls, which was a very
for heaven's sake.
which was a very
that was my old
liberal thing to be
grandfather, my old Italian grandfather.
On your dad's side or your
my
mom's side?
mother's side.
On your mother's side.
Giordano.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the
Do you know the
Giordanos.
Giordanos?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? I have a whole Italian side to our Greek family. Married the Demaras and the Wilsons and the Camerons and all those. But Dad was supportive. He didn't think, my daughter's going to go off and be a musician and hang out with these crazy musicians and stuff.
He was very good. He was with me all the time. I mean, we rented the apartment together, all my performances, wherever I went. And Someday I'll tell you the story about Cuba when I went to Cuba and sang there.
Well, we could do that after this next break. That was a great little, thing that we could do.
No, he was always there. And,
was he your manager also?
No.
Okay.
No,
Good. So he wasn't hovering like the manager type.
MCA was my agent and
MCA.
MCA.
Wow, you were serious. Let me get back to it right after this commercial.
Sure.
We are on with Ann Leonardo Thaxter, Capitol recording artist, Ed Sullivan featured guest. So this is the Mark Kapetan Show on KMJ. We'll be right back after this.
He's a traveling stranger, no place to call his home. People stop and wonder why he rambles and roams.
Welcome back to the Mark Kapetan Show. We are on with Ann Leonardo Thaxter. This is Ann Leonardo singing Traveling Stranger, her hit song from 1957 when she was signed with Capitol Records. Before that, though, Ann, we have a commercial to do. We have Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. Hey, you guys know it. Also, if you're looking for a new home, contact Victoria Sherlock at Sherlock Realty. Sherlock Realty, the clue to finding your next home. It's 559-289-4669. CV Lux Magazine has voted Sherlock Realty their top realtor for 3 years in a row now. So if you're looking for the right home at the right price, call Victoria Sherlock at Sherlock Realty, 559-289-4669. That's 559-289-4669. It's that groovy music back then, Ann, right? I love that stuff. All right, Ann. So that was from 1957. You had a recording contract with Capitol Records. How many records do you do with them? Oh, I got to turn you on. Go for it.
Yeah. 5.
5 records.
Yeah.
Wow.
And one I think they just kept in the can. That I had decided to leave show business, and they just didn't release it then.
Really?
Yeah.
You left. Okay. The record contract came after Sullivan and all that, or before?
During.
During.
On the show was every morning. And on those days, there would be song pluggers coming in, trying to get whoever was performing on the show at that time, trying to get them to sing their songs. I don't know if they still do that. Do you know what a song plugger is?
No, I haven't heard that term before.
Really? Okay, well.
Trying to get the radio stations to play the song?
Yes,
yeah.
And trying to get the performers on the radio that were on the radio.
Well, they used to call that pay for play back in the day, and that was payola. That was outlawed. But they would have pluggers that wouldn't pay. They would just try to encourage the radio
they
stations.
take you out to breakfast or lunch or whatever it is. They romance you a little bit, do that to get you to do their song, And they were like working for publishing companies.
And I understand that you had the record contract, and that led with Ed Sullivan and all that kind of stuff, led to a East Coast tour. From back then, they didn't do concerts like we do now. They had nightclubs, and the nightclubs may be a big nightclub with a big stage and orchestras, et cetera, et cetera. But you had a tour of nightclubs, and you were doing Jerry Lewis, playing with him.
Chicago Theater, yeah.
Chicago Theater. What was he like? Did you have interaction with him at all?
Yes. I'd rather not
Would
talk
I
about
rather
that.
say? Really?
Well,
so it was
he
true
was,
the rumors, basically.
Yeah, he was different.
Yeah.
He was a very egotistical person, and thought everything revolved around him.
And that's the rumor about him, but you never know. But from firsthand experience, you experienced that. Wow.
He came on strong to me, but
hey, you were America's sweetheart. Right.
But he
I'm
didn't
teasing.
get anywhere, so he just left. He came to my dressing room and said he wanted to talk to me. And he was,
really?
So on and so forth. But I just edged away from him because I had heard about him. And besides, I was only 19 or 20 years old. I didn't know this world.
Oh, really?
I soon learned about it, but I didn't know it then.
So it was that dramatic of an event for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Was Dad there to say,
no,
hey?
he was in the audience. He was in the audience,
Wow.
So he was sitting there waiting for me to sing. Yeah.
So from all that rock and roll, from all that touring and stuff like that, you learned to handle yourself.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And we talked about it. My dad would say something, and I'd tell him what happened, and he'd tell me, you know.
You did the right thing. Yeah.
Yes. I am so glad he was there. So glad he...
What did Dad do? What was his background?
He was retired by that time. He had a grocery store, and he had property in Fresno.
What was the grocery store back in the day?
It was on Maple and Tulare.
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
Purity Market.
Oh, yeah.
And then my uncle had Leonardo's Market. And then my dad had property on Fresno Street where the Dante restaurant was. And
the Dante Club, or is that where the Dante restaurant? Okay.
Yeah, he was a part of that Dante Club. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he was very active in all those things. Kearney Bowl. He was one of the guys that started the Kearney Bowl.
Oh,
you know,
no
the
kidding.
races are there at Airport Speedway. Yeah. So anyway, he was a busy guy.
Your inspiration for doing all this, I understand, was that you were a mascot for the Roosevelt High School as a little girl, though. And that once you heard that crowd clapping for you, that was it. You were hooked, huh? Right?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Well, actually, the first experience I had was singing for KMJ and the Fresno Bee, and I think I was 3 years old, and another cousin brought me there to sing on the radio show. I guess it was like kids show or something, and I sang "Oh Johnny, how you can love." I was like 3 years old.
Oh, that's funny.
I got up on a stool or something and sang. So that's, I think, that was the beginning.
Yeah, you were
beginning of the end.
You were on KJEO TV, and then you were on KMJ. You at some point, either before or after it got to fame. But then you had your own show. Was it on KMJ? Was it a weekly show?
No, it was on Tuesday. It came right on after the Dinah Shore show, and it was high school kids that came from the different high schools: Roosevelt, Fresno High, Edison.
Yeah. It was a talent show.
Yeah,
So you did basically your own Fresno's Got Talent type thing.
Yeah.
How cute. And it was all live back then.
Absolutely.
And if they're
live.
playing music, they have a piano in the room there. And
I do a song, and I sing the beginning, getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
We got a little piano sitting in front of you if you want to try to bang out a tune or two.
Anyway, yeah, it was cute.
You were the host though too. So
Yes.
you're basically a radio DJ or a talk show host.
Yeah.
Just like
And
we're
on
doing
the
here.
radio show, I did the radio show with a guy named Ken Devaney. Did you know Ken? He was an attorney.
I know the name. Yes,
he was
absolutely.
An attorney. Yeah. And when he was a student at Fresno State, and then he was going to law school, he did a radio show, KMJ. It was called Coke Time.
Coke Time, really. It was sponsored by Coca-Cola, I'm assuming, right? Yeah. What's funny, Marcel, is even when we talk about that kind of stuff, that's my phone, by the way, I screwed up and left it on. Even when we talk about that kind of stuff, the radio back then would have hundreds of thousands of listeners every day. I know. I like to think that still hundreds of thousands of listeners listen to me.
Yeah,
but,
I'm sure it
but,
is. I'm sure it is.
But listen, that was the heyday of radio and TV and stuff like that. And you must have been a well-known name here in the Valley, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, and they had those big cameras in those days,
Yeah.
And I read from a
Teleprompter.
teleprompter.
Oh, teleprompter or cards back then?
Teleprompter.
Really?
Yeah, they were.
Wow.
Yeah.
You started performing on KJO TV with a local hillbilly group called the Dave Stogner Band. I actually listened to some of Dave Stogner's stuff. I don't
Yeah.
have it here with us right now,
Yeah,
but so you're doing hillbilly. Were you doing that country accent type?
I don't know how that happened. Yeah, well, anyway, one thing I remembered, that Joe Drilling. Did you know Joe Drilling?
No, another name
right.
that I've heard of in the
All right,
past.
so he was the manager of KJEO. And when he heard I was going to, or that I had gone to New York or something,
Yeah.
he contacted me and said, I want you to see Hubble Robinson, who is the CEO of CBS. And he said, I want you to audition for him up there. And I told him, I'm going on the Arthur Godfrey show. Well, still, go get that audition. So I did that. And as a result of that, I got my manager, who was Marvin Josephson, who later became probably the biggest agent in New York.
Oh, really?
Yes. Marvin Joseph. Creative management, yeah.
Creative artists.
Yeah.
You're kidding me. He was with Creative Artists. That's the biggest management company still to this day.
But when I went with him, he had Captain Kangaroo and Charles Collingwood and
I
me.
love it.
Only
Captain
3
Kangaroo.
people. Only 3 people.
Really?
Yeah.
We're going to talk. We're going to talk about Come to Fresno right after this.
Sorry.
This is Ann Leonardo Thaxter on the Mark Kapetan Show. We'll be right back after this on KMJ. Welcome back to the Mark Kapetan Show. You're listening to the sweet sounds of Ann Leonardo Thaxter right here on KMJ. It's KMJ at KMJ Now or wherever you like to stream. I love this. I asked Ann Leonardo Thaxter, our guest for today, to lead us in. I got to give a little shout out to Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. Ann, that was beautiful. Kapetan Brothers Law Firm. If you've been in an accident, you know the drill. Let's just get back to Ann, right? Let's get back to Ann. Ann Leonardo Thaxter. She's a radio personality, a singer-songwriter, was a Capitol Records recording artist. KMJ radio veteran, Valley Music Hall of Fame inductee. Valley Music Hall of Fame inductee. That's got to be exciting for you to come back to Fresno.
Oh, that was very exciting. Yeah, that was very touching.
You know, out of all the things that you know, songs, record contracts, everything, to have your hometown recognize you like that's just a beautiful thing. So
I agree.
Everybody out there support the Valley Music Hall of Fame. Debbie Rude and all the group out there.
By any chance?
Yeah. Okay. You wanted to? I'll tell you the story. I was sick, and I said I want to make a showing, and so I'm going to go out there. I felt like something was coming on, and I want to go out there. They lock the doors so no one goes in and ruins the performances.
Oh,
and so I'm there pressing the bell, saying, "Let me in, let me in." No one answers the bell, so I finally went home. So I'm very sorry.
Oh.
Okay, and at some point, you decide you said it was after your 5th record was already produced. You said, I'm going to just give it all up. What happened? Why the decision?
Well, I think I had a boyfriend in Fresno, Tom Thaxter.
Yeah.
We met in high school, and it was a tumultuous romance because I was going back and forth to New York. He was going to UCLA. He was a pre-med student, and he played football for UCLA.
Yeah.
And so it was off and on kind of a romance, and I got kind of discouraged about show business, I must tell you. It was that time of, the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
It was big time stuff then.
The Jerry Lewis thing didn't help out, basically.
And my manager wanted me to go on to the Jack Parr show. That was a big show,
Absolutely.
And the producer said, yeah, well, she can come on if she'll go to dinner with me.
Oh,
and he
no.
said, that she's not that kind of girl, and her father travels with her all the time. And he said, oh, well, tough cookies. That was it.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
So
there were things like that.
The young girls, we hear that kind of stuff, and we talk about the Me Too movement now and some of the things, but back then it really was that bad.
Yes.
I didn't expect that as I got to say, I didn't expect that as the answer. I thought you found a nice young man and you wanted to marry and come back and raise a family.
I just weighed these things, and I had an experience in Cuba.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell me about Cuba.
Well, that was the whole thing. There I was romanced by a gangster there.
Yeah.
Who ran that casino. He was one of Meyer Lansky's lieutenants. The Trafficante owned that casino, and it was very nice. But my father was there, and I don't know. I just looked at the worlds, and I thought, here I come from this big Italian family in Fresno, and I have this great boyfriend.
But what I was getting at, and I'm glad you told the Jeez.
I don't
Glad you
know
told
if
the Cuba story, because that was pretty interesting. But what I was getting at was I expected it to be I fell in love. I wanted to raise a family, and you did. And you have a wonderful daughter and this and kids. Your son's an attorney. Your brother-in-law was Jim Thaxter.
No, my son is an orthopedic surgeon.
I'm sorry, orthopedic surgeon.
My
Your
daughter-
daughter's an attorney,
yeah.
right? But the fact that your departure was based on integrity, I think is interesting. That you said, I have, whether it's your body, your soul, your womanhood, but it was something based on integrity, and I didn't expect that at all. And I love the answer. I think it's beautiful.
I'm sorry if I embarrassed you or something.
No, I'm telling you, I love it. I think it just shows. I mean, you got a great spirit and you seem to be fun loving, but there's a serious side to you that says, no, I am going to give up. I mean, for God's sakes, you have a Capitol Records contract, and it's one's as they called it back in the day, is in the can. The record's ready to be released, and you just say, no, I'm going to choose my own integrity and whether it's my body or my well-being over this great success.
Well, also, let me say
Yeah.
that if you get into that world, you get trapped.
Yeah.
You become then a commodity that they need you. You have to perform. You have to do, because they're making money off of you.
Right.
That's how those guys exist. How do agents exist and promoters and
Wow.
producers? They exist off of performers. And I could see if I just stay in this, I'll get trapped, and then I can't get out. I just saw that.
You hope that they've learned not to make money that way off performers and have a little more integrity, but I don't know if it's much better these days. At some point, you follow your husband, Tom, who's an orthopedic surgeon, over to Okinawa. By the way, my dad he commanded the military base there at Futima.
Oh, really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
The Army?
Yeah, Marine.
Oh,
the Marine Air Base.
Oh, yeah, Futima was the Marine.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
But you
About
were,
what year? When was that?
Vietnam War,
Yeah,
60, it would have either been 67 or 70, I believe.
That's
in
when
74
we were there.
he was gone.
That's when he was at camp. My husband was at Camp Cooey.
Well, I don't know which where. So you were on the Army base because there's a camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
But he was at the hospital there, the
well,
Army hospital.
I'm sure believe me, I would imagine, because my dad loved music. He was born in 25. Used to go to all the shows at the Aragon Ballroom back in Chicago back in the day. So if you were playing and performing there, I'm sure my dad saw you at some point there, which is just a nice thought to think of. But you were on Armed Forces Radio back then. Good
Yes.
morning in Vietnam.
And television, Armed Forces Television also.
Yeah, serving the troops.
Yeah.
That had to be exciting
It was
also.
very exciting. Art Linkletter came and did a couple shows there, and I performed with him. And Dick Contino, my cousin, came there.
You're related to the Cantinos?
Yeah, he's my cousin.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him. When did he pass?
Oh, just a couple years ago.
Yeah, just a couple years ago. I met him through, I think, Ray Appleton, Dick Contino.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful guy. Sweet guy.
Yeah. He
Wow.
was.
You also came back to Fresno. You taught, you returned to Fresno. You completed your degree at Fresno State, began teaching. But I'm assuming you also came back for your kids and stuff. Any regrets in doing that?
No, not a one. Not a one. I had a very interesting life. It was another life. Very exciting, and being a surgeon's wife is exciting.
Yeah.
And
You still love to play music?
oh, sure, I do. But sometimes, I have dry spells, and then something happens, like the
Valley Music Hall of Fame or something like
will
that?
happen, and I'll have to pull out my music and start practicing.
I do the same thing. You go through those plateaus where you just don't think like you're getting any better or that you're loving it as much, and then you pull out that guitar and you pull out your piano and you just you get back into it. You
and
love
then I
it.
say,
It's
okay,
exciting.
this is my last hurrah. That's it. This
You're
is
going to
my
retire
last
for the
one.
last time. Well, I hope you're not retiring for the last time, because we'd love to hear you play. I understand that you and Debbie Rude may be doing something in the future for some performances, right?
Yes. At the terraces where I live now.
At the terraces.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get John Capitan, my brother from American Made Concerts, to put on an Ann Leonardo Thaxter concert. How cool would that be, Marcella?
Oh my God.
And this was maybe one of my most exciting shows. I love it. I love having you on the show.
So
Thank
sweet.
you.
Thank you.
Stay tuned for the restaurant tours right after this with Mike Sherinian and Dave Fansler. Thanks to my producer, the wonderful Marcella Solorio Taylor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, the best. We'll see you next week on the Mark Kapetan Show. This is KMJ.
Gentlemen, right now, a very charming young girl, an Arthur Godfrey discovery. We love her. We're sure you will too. Miss Ann Leonardo.
I blush to think how many, many men have asked for a kiss from me. I blush to think how many, many men I have answered no siree. I listen to my papa as a girl. I'm proper as a girl can be. I wish to thank the many, many men for the properness in me they see. But as for you, you Romeo, you'll see a human dynamo who'll hug you till you holler, uncle, squeeze you, till you're black and blue, kiss you, till you beg for mercy, haunt you, till you say I do. Oh, you Romeo, and for you Romeo, oh, what love your baby has for you. I blush to think how many, many times my affection men would seek. Perhaps a good night kiss I'd allow to be placed upon my cheek. I listen to my papa as a girl, I'm proper as a girl can be. I wish to thank the many, many men for the properness in me they see. But as for you great big sap, you run into a booby trap. We'll hug you till you holler, uncle, squeeze you, till you're black and blue, kiss you, till you beg for mercy, haunt you, till you say I do. Oh, you Romeo, and for you Romeo, oh, what love your baby